Then comes our good friend Richard Dawkins, and how does the master of New Atheism himself deal with this kind of worldview?
Right, and we should point out here that she's doing something very important here. She's just not making claims; she is documenting what real people say and believe about their own worldview.
Yeah.
Right, real people and smart people, we would suggest, even right. She's documenting that. Because she's just not, these are not ad hominem or attacking, false attacks.
Let them speak for themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Dawkins says that humans are merely, and again, merely should be a key word there, survival machines. They're robot vehicles blindly programmed by their genes, or we're just slaves to our genes. The selfish gene that he's written, different memes and his blind watchmaker, the books that he's written all point to this. We're just in modes of survival, and our genes push us along, and we don't really have any way to make choice.
Yeah, and so again, we need to ask Dawkins the question. So are you programmed to say that? Are you programmed to believe that? And if so, why should we pay attention to it? How do we know it's true or false, right?
Right. So I think that illustrates a really good point, is that these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, principles can flow and you can interchange them, and it's not a roadmap. It's main points to hit on, because it seems like here you're giving them the implications of, okay, well, this is what you see out in the world. Well, then what are your actions that govern you when you kiss your children goodnight? But also, if you're saying that's the case, then here are the implications based on your worldview. So why should I listen to you and not to my genes? My genes tell me that God exists. So therefore God does exist, right? It helps me with my survival. So it's not just okay, well, we're in principle 3 now. We got to wait for a few more interactions back and forth. Now principle 4, and now we can present the gospel. These things can interchange, but she's highlighting these points. So in Dawkins' mind, a person has no more freedom than a little red car. However, when pressed on the issue after a lecture, Dawkins admitted that he does not practice what he preaches. That's weird. Yeah. He does not treat the very idea. Exactly. He does not treat the very idea of responsibility as nonsense. He does not hold people responsible, or he does hold people responsible for their actions. I blame people. I give people credit, is what he says. But don't you see that's an inconsistency in your worldview, is the response? And Dawkins replies, I sort of do, yes, but it is an inconsistency that we sort of have to live with. Otherwise, life would be intolerable. So you don't have the ability to freely choose, but if you chose to act that way, you'd be intolerable. Yeah. Right. So again,
if everybody chose to act that way, he says life is intolerable.
Right? I can choose to act like this, but not everybody else.
That's right.
So again, it's a signal of when people are unable to live within their scope of their worldview. It would be the same thing as if everyone believed that 2 + 2 = 5, and we kept shooting our rocket towards Mars and it kept veering right. At some point we have to say, okay, maybe we need to reestablish what our basic assumptions are of arithmetic, and say maybe we've gotten something wrong. And that's even a poor illustration, because with that you can check arithmetic itself. But what we're saying,
well, you can check it against the way the world is and the way math works and that sort of thing. And that's really what we're saying here, right? Check it against the world. Here
is their basic belief system, and this is again, almost, I don't want to say dangerous, but you're you're causing people to convince them to upturn their most basic belief system. And Romans 1 tells us that
that leads to disastrous behavior.
You will worship something.
Yeah.
And so they'll either move on to the next idol, which then, again, you'll just go through this process again, or they're forced to confront the fact that they live in God's world and they're subject to God's, being a creature of God. And there are implications that Paul talks about from believing these things. And it's a whole lifestyle that people would have to uproot and change if they adhered to these, if they logically went through with a consistent viewing of their worldview.
Right. Yeah.
So it's dangerous in both ways.
Yeah. So God, Romans 1 says, gives them over, allows them to, to go to the end, allows them to smash their nose against the wall. Okay. Right?
How could God do such a thing?
In hopes that they'll come to themselves like the prodigal son did, right? And realize that, oh, wait a minute, there is a wall there, right?